Thank you, Bobby. We will also have a poll at the end here, so just keep an eye on the bottom of that screen. And with that, it is officially 9:30, and so I am going to turn off chat and move over and start this presentation. Thanks for everybody joining here. All right, so in terms of just a quick hello, you got your panelists here. So hi, this is me sharing my screen, Jason Beck. Calling in from Houston, Texas, and at home like everybody else. Did shower and do my hair today, so appreciate everybody attending and seeing and hearing kind of some ways that brokers are facing this pandemic head on, and what Powermatrix is trying to do to help as well. So as I kick off this presentation, and you'll be able to see kind of the agenda that we're going to go through. We are going to talk about what PM has done for the past 3.5 years since we've been in business to run a distributed team, a global workforce. We use all these tools, and we're going to tell you about them today. And then you also got the panelists of fantastic speakers that I'll be introducing shortly. We'll talk about what we're doing on our Sparkplug platform to help our customers and prospects, and we'll wrap it up. So let's start off with a little bit. You guys, many of you have heard me talk about our core purpose for Powermatrix several times. That core purpose is connecting people through technology to increase trust in retail energy markets. And we launched this out in August of 2019, and it's amazing what a world we live in with the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe it's a silver lining, and maybe we were a little forward thinking, but this first part, connecting people through technology, we've been doing it for a while, and now everyone's doing it. Everyone's connecting, through these new technology platforms. But having said that, continuing on to the end of our mission statement here, it is really to focus on retail energy markets only. It's all we do, and also to increase trust. And so as we thought about our mission statement in this pandemic, we thought about how could we help? How can we help our clients? And that really starts with this first webinar, and you'll hear more about what we've decided over the last week to continue on with our mission here and answering, and we really do hope you enjoy. So we have a list of panelists here, and these are strong, seasoned professionals in our industry. They are broker leaders within their disparate organizations, and although they are a very diverse set of brokers, not quite the diverse panel, and those who know me well, it's something that I try to focus on consistently. So I have no idea who picked 4 30 to 40-year-old Caucasians to lead this panel, but that was me. And all kidding aside, I'll be better on that in the future as I continue to try to bring diversity to retail energy. But just to quickly introduce everybody, you got Kyle Ram, who's the CFO of Titan. Titan is a very large regional broker. Regional meaning that they focus on the New England area, but they run a team of a lot of agents, and I'll let Kyle disclose any statistics that he wants to about his company. You have Nick Marie, who is the president of Premier Energy Solutions. He's a newer entrant to retail energy, but I've always been impressed from day one with his enthusiasm, his work ethic, his knowledge, and he already runs, after being in the business now for a couple of years, a multi-office brokerage firm and is expanding incredibly fast. You then also have Chris Ward, who's the president of Forward Energy Solutions, an industry veteran with over 10 years of experience in retail energy. And Chris is a solopreneur who, like me, has been working from home and has successfully done that for many years. And he runs a team focused on the Texas market as well. Hi, panelists. I will be turning it over to you shortly, but let me first start off by talking a little bit about Powermatrix and just kind of the tools that we use. So with that, I think we're all facing the same thing, right? What are the changes due to COVID-19? Well, first of all, suppliers, and this is a blurb that we pulled from the supplier. Some of you probably know this supplier who sent this out, but don't want to name names. But this, this is happening all over the place. The public service commissions are shutting down door to door, which also includes any face-to-face solicitation. Many of us as brokers or those who support brokers, we meet with customers face-to-face all the time, and so we're transitioning. And this is, again, right from a supplier. Now, having said that, it goes beyond this. Suppliers are changing upfront payment terms, meaning removal of upfront payments. Some suppliers, large suppliers, are talking about going through and doing CAT trans pass-through products only. And I'm sure you guys are hearing these communications. So there's a lot of changes going on the supplier side as well. And then I wanted to take a moment to talk about the broker side, and that, it's a very interesting time. This is a comment here as you guys read through this from a broker of Sparkplug. They had started a 2-person shop, incredibly small, brand new entrant to retail energy. And they started the process in Sparkplug in March. So they signed up to get into this cloud-based ecosystem. And honestly, no offense to this broker, but I don't think anybody wants to be this person, right? And have statements that they're saying we were completely unprepared from work from home and we were living in the 20th century. And that is something that, we try incredibly hard at Powermatrix to help our customers get into the 21st century, get out of emails and Excel. And I think that's exactly what's needed from, for this new world that we live in. Just as an FYI, again, this customer is, postponed basically their relationship with Sparkplug until after this pandemic, because they just are dealing with other things. And we know that that's going to happen, and we're here to help in any way we can. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the demonstration. So in continuing on, those are the changes that are happening in COVID. Everyone's moving to this distributed workforce, work from home, tools, etc. And just to share why we feel like we're hosting this, and so many people are joining to listen to us speak, is that we run a global team. We have people in Houston, in Oklahoma City, in Chicago, in New Jersey, and a very large team in New Delhi that all worked in an office space. And we had to transition them to a work from home team. Luckily, we actually pulled that trigger 4 days before the India government did. So we were already in the process of transitioning, making sure people had great internet speeds. But you can imagine with these 5 different departments and over 50 employees, 52 is the exact number. This is something that we've had to deal with for quite some time. So what are the tools that we use? So our secret, how Powermatrix works in the cloud, right? We're a cloud-based company, and these are some of the tools that we use. So one of the first tools that we use is the collaboration tools. First off is Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams, and another one that I would suggest that we've used in the past is Slack, another great internal collaboration tool. It allows you to have channels, and basically it gets you out of email and then more into topical conversations with your teams. So for instance, our team setup, we have a channel for every single one of our 111 clients on Sparkplug. We have separate channels for development and sales and marketing activity, and new products that we're coming out with Exchange and Propeller, for those who know. And so what's beautiful about a tool like Teams, and I suggest everybody either use it. And by the way, if you're a Microsoft 365 customer, you get Teams for free. Well, not for free, but for your subscription. And it is the channel aspect allows you to get out of email where you have to search and figure out where it is and just go to a channel and really see the entire history of what that topical conversation was for your business. So that is a huge one. I highly suggest it. It's why it's at the top of the list. The next one that we use on collaboration is Uber Conference. We also use Webinar Ninja, and I'll talk about both of those. Uber Conference is, and Zoom is another aspect that you've probably heard. Zoom is a very hot stack right now. Zoom and Uber Conference are both, for face-to-face meetings. It is, as you see my face today, as long as you have a good internet connection, Uber Conference is a great tool for one-on-one meetings, or for, one on a few, if you will, one on maybe, a 4-person executive team that you guys are trying to sell contracts to. And one of the coolest pieces about Uber Conference is, if any of you guys have used conference software before, there's usually a dial-in number and then there's a PIN. And that's just another step. If you're trying to reduce the pain for your customers, Uber Conference is a great way because there's no PIN codes. You simply log in, you can view the screen, and then you do have the ability to dial in as well. So clicking on a link, as well as if you wanted to dial in for the voice, no PIN codes, which is a great piece. Webinar Ninja, which is webinar with an A, that's my bad, is a large group broadcast, right? It's just one on hundreds. It is a great platform. We use it, and I hope it's all coming through clearly on this. And then Dialpad. When you talk about phone-based systems, it is, sorry, it is just a real quick, panelists, I have a question open here that says they can only see the screen with our core purpose. Is everybody seeing my screen okay, panelists?
Yeah, I see it fine.
For anybody who, awesome, thanks so much. For anybody who is having any issues with the screen sharing, there's a button that says connection troubles, reconnect, which is right above the questions. I would just strongly suggest doing that. It seems to work well through all our tests. All right, cool. So in fact, I'm going to do that real quick as well. Just resharing my screen, I noticed I wasn't able to respond to questions. Sometimes that happens in software. Yeah, and I'm giving them kudos right now, and I'm telling you maybe it's not the best software in the world. So just sharing my screen again, and you guys can see it. Wonderful. All right, so as I continue along here, Dialpad being a cloud-based phone system, it is something that we use. It is basically a virtual phone number. So think about your cell phone. You can download the app to your cell phone as well, but it's business lines that don't have to have an actual physical phone attached to it. So strongly suggest Dialpad. And by the way, Dialpad owns Uber Conference, so you kind of can buy the package together. So, all right. So cloud-based CRM. It's another big tool that you need in any business. Personally, as you guys know, to reach out to all you fine brokers and suppliers out there, do not need a customized software, even though that's what Powermatrix sells. We use HubSpot, and if you don't know HubSpot, if you know of Salesforce, HubSpot is Salesforce's biggest competitor, not quite as large, but we love the software. And really what's more important than anything else is, again, HubSpot doesn't really work for brokers or suppliers because it's not and can't be customized around our business, the retail energy business. But for our activity, for my personal activity, and it's great because it gives us other ideas, from a big CRM that we can continue to make happen in our products for brokers and suppliers. Biggest things about cloud-based CRMs is that you can really monitor your salespeople activity. And I think some of the panelists will be kind of talking about this as well. But that's a big part of cloud-based CRMs is you want to be able to manage your sales and operations activity and production. And more importantly than anything, Jason Beck is the notes for all customers in one place. Personally, before the merger, and for those who don't know, Powermatrix merged with Energy Frameworks back in August of 2019. Through that transition, I was working in Excel and email myself. All my contacts, everything, even though I'm selling a cloud-based CRM, I was doing everything old school as well. And I sat there through this transition of going to a cloud-based CRM from my way of doing it, Excel and notes. And I was like, man, this is going to be so much more work. I have more buttons to click. It was so much easier in my Excel document. And then I started implementing it. And I think the biggest time savings, in fact, I can tell you with a certainty that I spend less time in HubSpot than I do in Excel and Word. And where that came to be was people had to ask me questions about customers all the time. Even though I shared my Excel and Word document with them, I had to share, like, where does this customer stand? What's going on with this? All questions coming to me from all places. And with the implementation of a cloud-based CRM, all of that stopped because everybody knew exactly where to go for the notes. They could see the entire history of that customer. There was not as much email communication, and there was not as much internal communication as well. We were able to focus on other things. And lastly, may I add, is reporting. There is no question that every business owner needs to understand where their business is at, what their future forecast of revenues are, what their current book value is, slicing and dicing it by suppliers, by utilities and hot territories and your annual license compliance, right? To know what you're receiving by state, by month. Reporting in a cloud-based CRM, again, is one of the most productive things as we transition to this work from home world. I think it's imperative that everybody has access to that type of information. And it would make it harder if your salespeople are now, not in the office and not having that ability to communicate. So cloud-based CRM, that's my message there. It's one of our best tools that we have for working in the cloud. Next up is going to be ticketing and digital signature. So when I say ticketing, and again, Sparkplug, the reference here, we use a tool called Zendesk. Zendesk is a cloud-based customer service tool. Best in class at customer service. They've tried to do CRM and other things, but it's almost like stick to know what you know how to do. But Zendesk allows us to provide to all of our clients the ability to inflow tickets, right? So, hey, I have this problem. Hey, I have this need. And then it automatically gets tracked. That person can see it. It is a really fantastic tool. It also has a knowledge base for our customers. And what I liken Zendesk to when I talk about Sparkplug is that Sparkplug also has a ticketing system, very similarly, to allow you to track what your customers' needs are. Say you get a complaint in, or maybe even ticketing. It's a workflow management tool, right? Our workflow as a company that's supporting broker customers, for us, that workflow is receiving any issues that a broker is having, categorizing them, triaging them, and making sure that they get solved fast. For you guys as brokers and suppliers, it's your end use customers calling in and having needs. Or maybe it's your people in the field, and those sales agents in the field need to submit a contract, and that contract needs to be checked by your internal operations team. In a cloud-based system, a connected cloud-based system, you have the ability to really work remotely, have everybody in disparate locations, but still have one record of the truth. And ticketing is a big portion of that. The next piece is digital signature. We use a company called HelloSign. Now, again, this is, everybody knows DocuSign. This is where, and everybody knows Salesforce. It's amazing. It's also like if you go out to a store and buy Kleenex, right? Versus just regular tissues. Sometimes you just pay for that name brand, but yet maybe the tools all exist, in another product. And so that's what HelloSign is. It's owned by Dropbox, great tool that we use. We use it personally for executing NDAs and executing our contracts with our customers. What I liken this to, again, is in Sparkplug, you have the ability to send out your version of an NDA, which is an LOE, as well as execute matrix contracts automatically, also through HelloSign. And I got some cool news for my customers on this discussion here in a little bit. The last thing that we believe, and this doesn't have to do with our little secret sauce, this has to do with more of COVID-19 and what we are suggesting and what we are actually doing as well as Powermatrix to all of our customers, which is activities, right? What you need to do in this new world. The first and foremost is being present in your local community. Local businesses are struggling. Most of us are local businesses. Some of us are national players, but some brokers out there are, very local. And I think it's incredibly important right now to be out there, be present, and in any way you can. Social distance like crazy, but any way you can support your local communities, super strong suggestion. Beyond that, it's also turning your attention to support your customers. And we're doing that at Powermatrix. We've turned our attention to figure out how we can better support our customers. And again, news will be following my fantastic panel on what Sparkplug is going to do for our customers in this trying time. So with that, I'll just take a quick pause and see if there are any questions for Powermatrix in terms of any of the tools that we use, any questions that people have on any of those tools. You can always follow up with me after, but just going to give it a quick second here and see if any questions come in. If not, fantastic. All right. So I am going to turn it over to our esteemed panel, and I will be moderating this discussion and asking people some questions and to share their experience. And so, as mentioned, you got Kyle Ram, CFO of Titan Energy, Chris Ward, President of Forward Energy Solutions, and Nick Marie, President of Premier Energy Solutions on the line. And the first topic that we are going to jump into here, as I click my screen, is predictability. So I think one of the biggest things brokers are facing right now, and panelists, let me know your thoughts here, but they're facing an issue of predictability, revenue, timing, customer opportunities. You can see that on your screen. So let's kick it off with Kyle, and let me know, how is, with a large brokerage firm such as Titan, how is COVID-19 affecting your overall deal flow? Kyle, if you're talking, you might be on mute still. Or maybe he will reload. In the meantime, I will kick it over to Chris Ward, and same question. How do you see COVID-19 affecting your overall deal flow?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Thanks for the intro, and thanks for setting up the webinar. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat to a sense that it's definitely going to affect us, and now we're just trying to figure out how. So, our mission right now is we're really reaching out to our customers, trying to be available where we can. That can create opportunity. You never know when they're purchasing something or selling something off. So we're really just trying to contact our customers. We're trying to keep our heads down, and we're trying to focus on, what we had in the pipeline prior to, and just touch base with those folks, and, really try to be empathetic with them, and just say, hey, whatever we can do to help. Maybe it's even just helping them deal with their current provider in setting up some deferred payments or a payment plan. All that to me creates opportunity. So, we're taking an approach of, just really reaching out, touching base, and trying to, put ourselves in their shoes.
Yeah, real smart, Chris. There, appreciate that perspective. And Nick, do you feel it's affecting it positively or negative for your deal flow as well?
So yeah, I mean, there's a 100% chance that it's negatively affecting deal flow. Aside from the people that we currently work with, right? It's almost virtually impossible to get in touch with other people. Yes, we can make phone calls, we can jump on the phones, try to deal with people that we haven't talked to before. But after about a week and a half of trying that pretty nonstop and getting the same responses over and over and over again, I think people tend to think less of you still trying to sell something to a brand new person during the first real pandemic that hit the United States since, the Spanish flu in 100 years. So we've definitely taken a step back, looked at it more from, what Chris Ward said, that perspective, and focused just on retention, service, and making sure that our current customers are being taken care of as best as we possibly can without actually having to go in and shake their hand,
Yes, couldn't agree more. And it's good. Again, social distancing huge, but appreciate the perspective on deal flow. Another question here about predictability is what are you guys thinking about in terms of adjusting your forecasts? I think you have, a couple different aspects that I'd like you to touch on with reduced usage. How much are you seeing, or what are you predicting? Again, none of us know, right? We haven't, that's the lag of our industry, right? Customers are really just, now entering their bill cycles where they'll end a meter reading, and then it'll be reported out on. And those that are monitoring the daily, markets or the real-time markets are seeing a reduction in usage, but it's very particular verticals, and it's to the tune of, our dear friends at Innowatts reported that they saw about 21% reduction in the restaurant industry, and then others like commercial buildings and things like that in that same range. So anyway, curious to kick this off to Kyle first. Of what are you seeing, and how much are you predicting in any reduced usage, or what other things are you thinking about in terms of adjusting your future forecasts for the rest of the year? Kyle is having a ton of problems, I believe. So I am going to then move it to Chris and continue that conversation. Kyle is with us. He can hear us. He's just losing all audio, so connecting again. But Chris, please pick that one up.
You got it. And so I hope Kyle can get back on with us here in a minute. So definitely, trying not to think too much about it. But as Nick mentioned, we're definitely going to see an effect in, if we could predict exactly what it was going to be, that would be great. If I had to throw a number at it for my book, I would say 5 to 10% probably. We're pretty diverse, between small, medium, and large clients across a bunch of different industries. And so, the optimistic part of me says if I keep my head down, if I keep doing what I kind of mentioned before, and just provide, and as Nick mentioned, the level of service that I can bring to the client right now, I'm hoping that that's going to combat what we're going to see. Even with our restaurant clients, I may be jumping the gun here, but we have quite a few restaurant clients here in Houston where we live, and we're really trying to support them with taking out and gift cards and things like that. And, making some posts here on LinkedIn about, what we can do as a community. And so, I'm hoping it's not going to be too significant of an increase. And as you mentioned, Jason, it's going to be a couple of months before we actually see what that impact is going to be. So I'm taking the optimistic approach and, really just, like I said, trying to keep the head down and work hard and do what I can do. And our team here at Forward, we're 3 strong. So we have a very small team, and, that's what we're doing.
I really appreciate that perspective. Kyle, let's try testing out that voice real quick.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, while we can hear you, I got a question for you. Let's do it right now. I'm just joking. So kicking it back to you too as well. Chris just shared some perspective on kind of what he's thinking about with adjusting your future forecast for the rest of the year. Would love to hear kind of your perspective of that, and then if you can also touch on what you're thinking about in terms of bankruptcies. Customers are going to go out of business, but what does that percentage look like to you? And what verticals do you think are going to get hit the worst?
Well, look, there's the known unknowns, and then there's the unknown unknowns, right? So I think there's a lot that we don't know. But look, we've seen different forecasts, and the one that I saw in the Wall Street Journal that we've been discussing internally is power consumption declined 18% in Italy after their shutdown on a month-over-month basis. So. We're operating conservatively, given that we're very lucky to be in the industry that we're in, versus kind of the hospitality industry, which has been hit very hard. But in terms of the bankruptcies, we wish the best for all our customers, obviously, and that's there are a lot of people, small business owners that have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into what they do, and for those people, we're reaching out, seeing how we can support our local communities, as you mentioned, Jason, and trying to stay as positive as possible during these times. But I think if I had a crystal ball and it could tell you exactly how many companies would make it through this and who wouldn't, I probably would be a richer man than I am now. So
yeah, crystal balls, right? Would be betting on those, taking advantage of those short sales and things like that. Well, that's a really good perspective. I do have one more question for you that's coming actually in from the audience here. Is just
Sure.
that, and this question, apologize, Kyle, I was kicking it back to Chris and just, had a brain fart there. But Chris, kicking it back to you for a second, somebody in the audience asked about, and I'll even say his name, Tim Booth actually asked about thinking, that comment you made about thinking less of you for soliciting right now. That was Chris, or was that Nick?
That was me. Nick.
Oh, perfect. Sorry, Nick. Apologize, man. So kicking it off to Nick. Yeah, curious from the audience is, what do you think of that means in terms of layoffs? Like, what is any of your companies thinking about layoffs of the agents or salespeople that you have due to the fact that soliciting is really tough right now, right? And is there any thought of furloughing? And I'll start with you, Nick, and then I'm just going to go backwards on this panel because I honestly think that this is a great question. So thank you, Tim.
Yeah, that question is completely valid, and I guess it depends on how each brokerage is set up, whether you just have 1099 employees, if you have a couple W-2s, or any type of healthy mix in between. The way we operate is primarily 1099 agent-based. So do I personally have to lay anyone off? No, but what I did make sure of was to position the company financially was so that if anything were to happen, there's something within the bank accounts where I can at least show appreciation to my agents for sticking around, continuing to do their thing. Because it's not even guaranteed that our guys as 1099s will be able to capitalize on the government stimulus, right? So if I can do anything to make their lives a little bit easier, I'm going to. So will I furlough them, lay them off? Absolutely not. Since we're all kind of in the same boat, really, where we all have to take a step back, I totally understand not making a lot of phone calls, especially after the experience that I had trying to make over about 200 phone calls to new people, new prospects rather. And will I try to help my agents out as best as possible? Yeah, definitely. Will it hurt me a little bit financially? I mean, yeah, sure, I won't get a little bit of money, but at the end of the day, right, our people who work for us have done a tremendous job in making our lives financially so I give back to them.
I love that. Love that perspective. And Chris, not to skip over you, but I'm going to bounce it off to Kyle. Kyle, any thoughts on that as far as layoffs? And I'll wrap it up with a quick thought after that.
Yeah, we don't have any plans to do any furloughs or layoffs, it's really easy. We're not a public company, obviously. We're a private company. We don't have debt, so we've always operated very conservatively, which Jason, I know and we've done that so that we can thrive in all sorts of different times of the economy. And for us, it's really easy to treat people well when things are kind of up and to the right and going well. But for us, it's really important to treat our agents and our employees well in this time as well. And like I said, my first comment, I think we are in an industry and in a sector that won't be hit as hard necessarily as some others. So we're in a good position relative to a lot of folks, and I consider myself, and our company very lucky during these times that we don't have to do mass layoffs or furloughs or cutbacks or anything like that at this time. So that's our current thinking, and certainly I echo all the other comments about treating people right and trying to figure out how to help people kind of through this time. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great perspective, Kyle. And I mean, Powermatrix isn't laying anybody off either or furloughing. I'll wrap this up with those who are U.S. businesses. I would strongly suggest, and you'll hear more about this on this demonstration, but I'd strongly suggest to look at the federal loans. If you're thinking about layoffs, then you should be looking at the federal loans because it is, I mean, it's 0.5% interest. It's like free money, and all of that can go to salaries right now. So, now having said that, that would take a future bet on the company, and you'll hear more information from Powermatrix about that shortly. But just something that I would add there is that anybody who is thinking about layoffs, because I can understand why that would be a thought in these times, should really look at those loans as well. So huge thanks for that question. Keep them coming, audience. With that, I am going to bounce over to our next topic, which is remote work. And I will start off with Nick. You guys heard a little bit about what Powermatrix does to work without an office and still have business continuity. But I'm curious, what tools help you as a business and has helped you expand to a multi-office brokerage business within your first couple of years of production?
I'm sorry, did you say my name? It's a little echoey.
No, yes, Nick, I did say your name, and I'll thank you. I'll go ahead and reconnect now while you're talking. So please go ahead.
Sounds good. Give me 1 second to answer this one. So I need to see the question. Kyle, you're looking good, man.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Do I still have the video up?
Did you what? Hey, Jason, welcome back, man.
Hey, Kyle's beautiful face too. Yeah, we're all reconnecting, and just what we got to do to keep this webinar going. So yeah, Nick, if you can hear again, I'm going to reshare my screen, and please, yeah, what tools help you be a multi-office work remotely company?
Absolutely. So that's actually been one of the biggest advantages to having something like Powermatrix, where it's custom tailored to this industry, because it's an all-in-one kind of platform, right? So we've been able to use like the hello sign, the HUD polling, just in the data logging features as a whole, in order to keep track of customers' comments, concerns, and be able to capitalize on the clients that we do have, continuing to add businesses or add houses, or even consider using us for different projects that they're going to have in the future. We've been able to keep everything centralized in Powermatrix, so that all of our have the tools ready for them as well. So the big ones have been like the e-signing, the HUD polling, and the general data logging, and then always the back to the last question, the revenue timing and everything, keeping track of our residual payments that are coming in from the suppliers, to make sure that everything with those still stays pretty online as well. So I'm pretty full suite whenever it comes to Powermatrix.
Nick, we do appreciate all three of you guys as being customers, and have been, great customers for us, and appreciate the fact that, Sparkplug is helping you guys. Our product Sparkplug for Brokers is helping you guys, transition quickly. And just, in terms of that, again, this is not a sales pitch, honestly, guys. Those who are attendees and are not clients of ours, this is more just, brokers sharing, these remote work tools. And yes, Sparkplug is, that remote CRM. And I'm curious, Kyle, Chris, if you have any comments on those, I'll kick it over to Chris first, and anything that, helps your business, and then also speak about any other tools that you guys use as well to collaborate remotely.
Yeah, excellent. I'll just kind of echo what Nick said. When we decided to go with Sparkplug, we did a lot of research. Previously I'd used some other CRMs at other firms, and we just felt like this was going to be the best way for us to go. We haven't jumped all in with all the features. We're kind of piecing it together, and but it's working for us, and I look forward to being able to fully utilize it. The other things that I'll say, for us, we're pretty lucky because we already work from home. And so the only difference now is we have three of us kind of on top of each other. But it's nice to have everybody in the same spot. But, it's important to, be respectful of one another's space, and also to get out and, recharge the batteries a little bit. So take a walk, take the dog out, anything that you can do to, keep the, keep it fresh. And so I know your next question was kind of, what is your schedule like? So I'll hold off on that, because I did want to kind of share with the folks.
I appreciate that. Actually, yeah, please jump right into that, which is, what is your schedule like? Chris, you've been, as I mentioned, as I introduced you, you've been working from home for quite a while, just like me. And I'm curious, tell me a little bit about, how do you do that? How do you, your day-to-day basis, what's it look like?
Yeah. And then, obviously we'll let Kyle jump in after me. I'm going on 6 years of working at home, 2 different stints. But what I did early on was I came up with a routine, and I really try to stick to that routine. And without sharing too much, I get up and I either work out or attend, an early morning meeting, or read something in the Wall Street Journal, or read a couple of articles to kind of get myself going. Then I work till about 9, eat breakfast, take the dog out for a long walk, come back, hammer it out. And then, and it's real important to separate, I think, for breakfast, for lunch, and, watch TV, read a book. So about 1 or 2 o'clock, I usually break for lunch and completely step away from the desk. Then, come back about, after that, and work till 6 or so, or, if there's pressing things, we'll work a little bit later. And, so it's for us, it's been really important to stick to our schedule. And, as we know, as being business owners in the world that we are in, especially now, calls are coming in, customer issues. I had one this morning that, made me a little bit late to get on our pre-call, but, dealing with the outside influences that we don't have control over can be difficult. But if you can stick to that, set your routine and stick to it, I think it'll really, really help you in these times and going forward.
Yeah, really appreciate that perspective and sharing, of what you do on a day-to-day basis. I would echo those sentiments. I don't think I'm glad you shared yours, because I think my schedule has been ridiculous for 3.5 years. It's like roll out of bed, jump on a 6:30 or 7 a.m. conference call with my team overseas. And then sometime around 9, maybe I step out of my desk a couple times a day to go to the bathroom, but that's about it. So again, my schedule not being the norm, but I think that what has happened is during this COVID-19 pandemic, I've seen so many people like Chris and other thought leaders share what their daily routine is, and I'm looking at myself being like, man, I didn't do this work from home thing right. So I'm changing my schedule too, and hope that perspective helps folks as well. Kyle, I'll kick it back to you to just, I know you're onboarding to the cloud-based platform and getting out of, Excel, et cetera, now as well. And 2 questions, actually. Share your perspective on what we're talking about, but also there is a question from the audience that I'd like you to take, which is, you have a large team, and I am, the audience is curious if do you use any applications that clocks in and clocks out people? Like, do you keep track of your people's time and what they're spending on, or are you going through and managing them more by statistics, right? And just kind of using the cloud-based system to do reporting and make sure that people are being productive during this time. How are you handling that?
Yeah, it's really the latter, Jason, and it's always been the latter for us. We're a kind of an outputs focused firm. Not to say that the inputs aren't important, and we track those, but at the end of the day, we're hoping that people are kind of self-motivated in their approach. We are trying to increase the amount of communication to our salespeople just generally. I reach out to folks more often now, and sometimes it's not even about business, to be honest with you. It's just hey, how you doing? Going stir crazy in there, because you do want to be mindful of people. It's a stressful time for everyone, right? It's stressful from a health standpoint. It's stressful from an earnings standpoint, and you want to make sure that you have that in mind. So we've been mindful about doing that. There are certain things that we're trying to implement. I know that it's kind of the thing to do now, but we are doing kind of the Friday happy hour to do that. But just
Nice,
in terms of tracking people, I think we do track the inputs. That is important to us. We have increased the amount of communication via phone call with our team members, and try to maintain as much personal interaction as we can at this time that we can't really be in person. So it is in terms of working remotely and tools and processes that I have. I'll be honest with you, this is the first time in my entire career I've always gone into an office, and we just moved actually to a new office space in downtown Hartford, and upgraded and actually expanded the number of seats that we have. So this happening right on the heels of that is kind of a bummer, but it's so it's kind of a new routine. And Jason, I know you have young kids.
Yes.
So to be at home with no daycares and a wife that works as well with a 2-year-old is not without challenges. So we know a lot of our employees and agents are going through those similar challenges and trying to manage their work life and their personal life at the same time, and trying to manage stress levels. So we're not trying to increase stress levels at this time by any means, but we certainly are tracking outputs.
Yeah, Kyle, great, super fantastic perspective there of running a large team. And if I may add to that with, Powermatrix experience. So we have a 48-person development team that, again, all worked in an office, all transitioned about 2 weeks ago on a Thursday to working from home, meaning like those that didn't even have laptops and have desktops picked up their desktop, brought it to their home, and implemented it, right? So I would just say that I completely echo your sentiments around that. Everybody needs to do everything they can to understand the mental head game, which is actually one of our last topics, of their employees. But I would honestly tell you, and this is speaking from experience, our people transitioned 48 people to work from home. We've seen more production over the last 2 weeks versus less. And that has everything to do with what we are doing as a company, just like Kyle is as well with his large team, of ensuring that the human component of it, right, the mental component of it is very well taken care of. And so I would absolutely say that, managing through productivity reports, I think is a huge thing, but do not introduce any more stress, and truthfully appreciate that question from the audience there. So, anybody else, can we move on to the next topic? I didn't want to stop anybody from Chris or Nick if you wanted to jump in there, but just in interest of time, I was going to move on to the next topic. You guys cool with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll move over to back to Nick here and talking about kind of efficiency. I know this is something else that brokers are thinking about is when we've already talked about cutting overhead or conserving cash, and we've all stated as 4 companies here that are not doing that. We're not repurposing resources. We're just doubling down on efforts. But I am curious, when you think about this, some people are taking this lull, because that's really what it is. It's a lull in sales activity to focus on different things of their business, of making sure that they are streamlining processes. And if so, which ones are you thinking about processing? And then, just in terms of your overhead management, is there any things that you're thinking about, making more of an investment in, or taking away an investment at this point in time?
Yeah, sure. Awesome. Thanks for asking. So basically, I think within the last 2 weeks, I was reading something. It was published by Yale, but they put out a case study on what their economists think is going to happen over the next, couple years after this COVID thing, and seeing that everyone can work from home, and it's actually pretty productive, and a lot of people seem to like it a lot more. But basically, they were saying that commercial real estate, mostly office buildings, are going to get hit the hardest long term from this, because as we sit here on a webinar in our homes, we see that each of us are still proactively working and connecting. So with the rest of the internet, I'm even and the use of some of Powermatrix's tools and just other tools on the internet as well. Even I'm considering scaling back an office because now I've seen that regardless, my employees want to make money. Regardless, not having to come into an office does make things a little bit easier for everyone in terms of productivity. And as a whole, I'm not sure I need all this extra office space whenever things are working just fine from home. And they kind of have been for a little while as well. So it's definitely interesting. It's interesting to see what type of overhead we can cut out from this. And with all this downtime, I think Chris and I were talking yesterday about how it's been a really good time to catch up on a bunch of data entry and everything. So
that's right. That's so funny that you mentioned that. We at Powermatrix too, as Sparkplug, have just been inundated by folks, what we call certain of our customers SNL, sign not live, right? Not using all aspects of the system, and we've just been inundated with requests because people are using that time to focus on exactly what you're talking about, Nick, of making sure you understand your business from a reporting perspective. I think that perspective around office space is so interesting. If you have the right tools in place, if you have the right processes in place, now with this, and it's scary, but we're surviving, we're doing well. Well, do we need an office anymore, right? That's a very interesting thing that might come out of this. I couldn't agree with you more. Chris, next, please, comment on this efficiency piece. What are you looking at?
Yeah, great points, Nick. And we were discussing a little bit yesterday about, and I think it's your second question under efficiency. But it's we were looking at hiring our first outside employee right before this all started, and so obviously we've put a little hold on that, and we're still planning to do that, just not sure when. And with, hiring our first outside employee. So full disclosure, Forward Energy is a family owned and family run. So it's keeping it in the family. But we were looking at some shared office space. So a place where you can get a desk or two, have access to a conference room, and pay a very discounted monthly rate. And, be able to meet clients there too, if needed. So,
Yes.
And then just another point, really have been focusing on processes and procedures, putting those in place. So when we do go out to hire this outside employee, we'll have some things to share with them, some documents to share with them, and not just the one-on-one, hey, this is how we do it type of a process. So, and then, the boss of the family, my wife, she is very much telling me we need to, plan as much as we can, conserve as much as we can. And, we're just coming off of a wedding last month, and, there's been a lot going on in our world, but it's not to say that without proper planning, without proper execution, that it's not all possible. So, the fact that we're talking about it and bringing it up and sharing it with others is, I think exactly what we need to be doing.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, really good perspective. And, I think a lot of our clients here, or people on the line, as I'm getting more questions in, I'll ask Kyle to just quickly talk about from an efficiency standpoint here. We have another question about the agents staying efficient, right? So are you seeing your agents being productive? And if they are being productive, do you think that they are going to stay productive, or is it just for the first few weeks? Now, before you answer that, I'm going to mention my two quick cents of this is that honestly, if it's going to be more about how your people are paid. And I've told you about our employees that they are way more productive. I think if you have employees bought into the vision of a company, and that's a very big task, but if you have employees bought into the company, I think they're going to use the time at home to, you got to think about like commuting time. So even if they just use this time that they had for commuting to spend time with family, to go on walks, which we encourage constantly, but then they're using the other time and they're cutting down on commutes and other things and just traveling in general, right? Whether that be to customers or whether that be to meetings. If you don't have that time, what are you going to do with that? And I think people will actually be more productive. Kyle, any perspective there?
Yeah, I've actually been surprised with how productive folks have been, to be honest with you. Both our admin team and our sales team. I think there are certain salespeople that for whatever reason have worked in closer with different sectors. The healthcare sector, for example, has been harder to reach for a lot of different reasons during this time. And the agents that work closely in that particular sector, are seeing some hard time just getting in touch with folks to get their attention because their priorities understandably are elsewhere. But I think for the most part and across the board, I've been pleasantly surprised, and some of that is you've been working on prospecting deals and closing deals for several, sometimes several months, and even remotely you can kind of close those out. What I'm a little concerned about is when that kind of pipeline dries out, and you don't have kind of that personal face-to-face interaction that you had. Is it going to be tougher to get a new customer's attention? We have redirected in certain circumstances some efforts on the admin side. We've taken this time to kind of clean up some of our marketing materials. We're actually just kicking off a new web design now, so it's a good time to kind of do those things when you might have a little bit more time to spend rather than just kind of the day-to-day grind. So
yeah,
on the admin side, we've been doing that. On the sales side, we've had certain suppliers reach out and ask for input as to what customers are increasing their demand and what customers may be increasing or shut down. And we're trying to be as communicative as possible and cooperative as possible with our suppliers so they can plan for the future as well. So
that's beautiful. That's a fantastic transition as well to our final topic here, which is the head game, right? This is the emotional side of things and the risks that we have, as brokers. And so I'll just kick it off by saying we did, just in interest of time, we did talk a good amount about internal, head game and how we deal with our employees and how we deal. I think this entire panel has that same vision of that. It's very important to be concentrating on that right now. But then the external factors and specifically the REPs. So question from the audience, and I'm going to ask each of our panelists, this will be the last few questions here around the external head game and your fears. So we'll start with Kyle and then Chris and Nick. But first off, from the rep perspective, right, the retail energy providers that you work with, are you thinking about anything in terms of, and this again a question from the audience here. Thanks for all this participation. Is there any thoughts about which REPs are going to survive the COVID-19 and which will not? Or when you're placing a customer with an REP, are you starting to think about that as their solvency, right? Their ability to perform not only through this but after this pandemic.
Yeah, well, that's something that's always in the back of our mind when we're selecting a supplier and we're recommending a supplier to a customer is that they can perform on the contract that we're putting them in. Obviously, over the last few years, there have been several larger suppliers that haven't been able to do that, and I think there's even before this there was an increased awareness of that risk, and certainly that it's something that we think about when we recommend that supplier to a particular customer. So we do want all of our suppliers to be profitable and to make money. That's important for us. So to the extent that we can help them do that and communicate with them openly, that's important for us because we want to keep those companies viable for a long period of time.
Absolutely. Chris, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I echo what Kyle said. We're always thinking about who we're placing our clients with. For us being a little bit of a smaller shop, I've purposely not extended relationships to those suppliers because I really value the supplier relationships, and they're a big reason why we were able to do what we are doing. And so I want to make sure that I'm being a good customer to them because I look at my supplier as my customer as well. And, I want to keep them busy. I want to, reward them for their time and what they're doing. But it's definitely is something to think about. And as we all know in our business, there are a lot of suppliers, providers, REPs, and they keep coming. We all, I think, kind of not joke around about it, but say how many more providers can the market handle, So yeah, definitely. It's a great question. I'm glad somebody brought it up. And, so we're, and one of our big things here at Forward is we really try and keep our customers with their incumbent. We give the incumbent every opportunity to keep the account. And so it's, it's fun and really appreciate all the relationships we have.
Love that. Really good comments. Nick?
Yeah, so basically this past summer, there were I think 2 4CP events in Texas, and overnight you saw like 4 or 5 different REPs just go belly up. Like the first one that comes to mind is like Agira. And to answer his question down here, Paul Eaton, in regards to the residuals from a folded REP, basically it depends on the bankruptcy filing, how the courts handle it, and what the REP who is buying that buckled REP is kind of willing to shell out. So
that's right.
But that's what similar to everyone else, right? We take that into consideration with the REPs that we go with, because I don't want to be that guy who has to turn around and tell one of my customers, hey, sorry, we actually didn't make a good decision by not going with a financially stable, and they couldn't handle what's going on. So I think maintaining a solid relationship with some of the larger guys is going to be what helps establish your brand as well, long term, for the suitability of the business. So yeah, some REPs may go down, but there will always be a bigger one to buy them. That's for sure.
That's right. That's to wrap that up. I would also state that if you guys are anybody who's national, I would hate to be a Northeast supplier that is focused on small commercial businesses and does not have a resi book behind it. That capacity cost, and we'll talk about that in some future webinar sessions, is going to eat some RAPs alive. Hopefully, if it's only for 3 months, they'll be able to survive without a problem. But yeah, great comments. And so, with that, I'm just going to wrap this portion of it up and thank all of our panelists for a fantastic, conversation here. Really do appreciate it. This has been, again, fantastic. And I'll just kind of wrap this up in 5 minutes here, just because we are at 10:30 and want to be respectful of people's times. But I think you've heard a lot of sentiments from a lot of folks that I'm going to go full screen here. That Sparkplug is one of those tools that helps them be a remote-based workforce. And I don't want to, again, it's not a sales pitch here. It's more of just showing you some of the things that a cloud-based system allows customers to do, including the integrated digital signature, the reporting, the ticket management. And by the way, for any of the current customers on the call, if you're not using these type of features, talk to us about it. We're here to help, right? Including the agent portals for remote salespeople. So again, and my big announcement for the day is Powermatrix is incredibly focused on trying to help our customers continue business and actually sign up more business. And so we've introduced our tongue-in-cheek Sparkplug stimulus package. We're not the federal government, so we can't do as much, unfortunately. But we are offering any of our annual use customers, our annual Sparkplug clients, free EDI, HU, and digital signature. And they will hear about that in an email that we're sending out today. And that is honestly to focus on, EDI, HU. If you're remote and you can't go out and, physically somebody hands you a bill copy, can they send you can you digitally sign an LOA and then get the historical usage back for that customer? We want to enable that. And then also the digital signature of matrix contracts for the small commercial folks. For those that believe that they're going to come back stronger in the small commercial space, still a pretty good time to buy, in a down market, even though I know some suppliers are increasing their rates. So yay for free EDI, HU, and digital signature. We are, again, trying to help. With that, to wrap this up, we are going to provide some additional resources for all of our attendees and those who registered but couldn't attend. I know a lot of people registered because they want the recording of this, which we will be providing the recording of today's session. We also have access to some Harvard Business Review type of information, and we've read through this document. It's pretty fantastic. Really covers the remote staff, managing remote staffs, and participation in virtual meetings. I'll wrap it also up with, I am going to post a poll here. So those who are still on the call, you're going to see this poll pop up at the top of your screen. It should at least. Yes, no, maybe so. It would be under polls. Go ahead and see if you can see that and start voting. But another way that we believe that we can help, and thank you, it is showing, so people are starting to mention there, but when we think about ways Powermatrix can help, we really want to be the voice of retail energy and provide a platform for our brokers, our suppliers, our people that, and remember, Powermatrix works with firms that don't want to buy our software, right? We try to connect brokers and softwares through a connected ecosystem called the exchange. So we're focused on both, and what we know we can do to continue to provide this type of thought leadership is continue to host these webinar sessions. And so our 3 current ideas for the next session, which we will be hosting Thursday at 9:30 a.m., other panels, other speakers. We've already lined up a supplier panel. We have an additional broker panel. And then the last piece too is that we would be we are happy to present on is the COVID federal funding, right? What it means to brokers and small REPs. There is some limitations as a size of companies. That's why I say small REPs. Some of the larger REPs won't qualify for it, but again, it's 10 million, up to $10 million in loans at 0.5% interest rate. Like, again, I'd say free money. So as the polls, please tell us what you want us to run. You'll be seeing another message here from us. Stay tuned. If you are following now our channel, Powermatrix, tell people about it. Please spread the word. We want to provide as much value to as many as we possibly can in this time. So plan on tuning in next Thursday. It looks like right now, nobody wants to hear from you guys, but you guys, look at that. You did such a good job, Nick, Chris, and Kyle, that there's only one person that even wants to hear from brokers. You covered it all, man. Thank you guys. So round of applause for our panelists. Woo-hoo!
Good job, guys. Thanks for asking me, Jason.
Yeah, no, more than my pleasure. And keep these polls coming in. We are going to be, taking this information in and then producing another. Maybe I spoke too soon. Now people are actually changing their answers. So they want more broker bills. Anyway, all joking aside, I wish everyone the best. Stay safe. Take care of your current customers. Take care of your employees during this time. And we'll be here thinking about you guys and trying to take care of you as best as we can here at Powermatrix. So stay tuned and look forward to our next webinar next Thursday on another topic for energy brokers and REPs. Thanks so much for the time, everybody. Really do appreciate it. Feel free to send me directly, DM me, as the cool kids are saying, direct message me. Any feedback on the presentations, any ways for us to make it better. We're humble here and would love the feedback. So cheers, everybody. With that, I'm going to end the recording. And again, huge thank you to Chris, to Kyle, and to Nick Marie. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for doing this.
Jason, you're the man. Thank you.
All right,
Great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
So.